Hi, it's Michelle here, and this is Belinda.
Hi, everyone.
We decided to do a Facebook Live. I realised we ran out of questions on the call, and so I wanted to actually I'm meeting up with Belinda today, so I thought we'd take the time to cut a quick video to share with you our ideas about, well, not all your questions because there were too many, but to address now, and briefly. But one in particular, which one did we think?
About colleagues that you need to work with, but you may dislike.
You may dislike. Okay,
we all have that.
We all have that. So, disliking is quite a strong word. Usually, someone's done something that makes me dislike them. Belinda, you can talk about your experience. I just want to share. I inherited a staff member once, and I ended up sacking him. It was awful.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, he just didn't want to do the work. And I didn't like how I had to work one weekend to do a proposal that he failed to do. And because he just didn't want to. I'm thinking, what was that? And, but I didn't know him as a person to actively dislike him. So, but it was hard, how to connect with someone you don't have an instant rapport with, maybe. Yeah, that's a bit trickier. So for me, what I tend to do is focus on the job. Like, what's the job at hand, and just, what is it? Positive, polite, and professional at all times, with a smile. And so diplomacy and kind as much as I can as well when I'm the boss and they're not, because I've got more power. So I'm always mindful of that as well when I dislike them. And trying to find something to connect with them on. Like, I'll just sort of, even if it falls flat, there's something about the intention of trying to connect, I think, that makes a huge difference to someone, even if it doesn't work. It's like, oh, how'd you go on the weekend? They go, fine. I go, oh, crikey. Now what do I say back?
Keep trying.
Yeah. So did you do anything fun? I was okay. Like, they stonewall you. I would still just be friendly and keep trying. That's my initial thoughts as thinking about working with someone I just don't click with very well.
Depends if it is affecting their productivity and, your role being responsible for them. Yeah, if it's not, then we can't always like everyone, can we? Or find things in common. But, there's usually something, isn't there, that you can eventually get to. Yeah.
Although I do remember having to work with someone once who was really, it was a power fight. I struggled. She was trying to take my territory, and I couldn't. That was really, like, I didn't like her for that. Whereas personally, I actually quite liked her, but I hate. Yeah, I use strong language. I hated her for that and the reason I hated her was because it evoked something in me where I actually felt powerless because she was a smarter.
I think it's always about that, isn't it? Looking back at yourself, what is it triggering? What is this dislike triggering? What is it saying about your worries as well, isn't it? Because I had someone who worked for me, and he had a team, and he had someone that he didn't like because they were taking over his job. And I said, well, that's your role in some respects. Build them up, get them to have the knowledge, get them to be responsible, because then you can move on to greater things as well. So that's one way to look at it.
So thinking about your role and your responsibility as their boss,
as building up their knowledge, and not being afraid of them wanting to take over your space, because really that whole idea of succession planning in the long term is the best thing for you, because that means you're also moving on.
I think it's quite different though when it's a peer, that's what I had. The person I had most difficulty with, now I'm remembering as we're talking, was she was actually more senior than me a little bit, and she made it very clear she was more senior than me a little bit, and I just didn't know how to navigate around that because she wouldn't let me. So I guess you have to cut your losses sometimes, and all I could do is just do the work and do it as professionally and as best I could. That was what I focused on because I didn't know what else.
Sometimes I think it's also the start of the relationship. The start of a relationship is so important, isn't it? That it's building that understanding and being upfront. And we talked about this earlier today, that you're very upfront and direct.
Very direct.
And I think that works well for people when they're trying to establish a relationship. And being upfront about yourself, but also asking asking those understandings of expectation, of empathy.
I never asked any of those questions. I was young, I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I remember
But
feeling...
it does help. It really does make such a difference. Or we could talk about it as an icebreaker, or we can talk about it as building rapport. But being upfront, saying, what do you want to get out of this?
How
we're going to work together. Yeah. Sometimes those are the things, and then stop and listen.
That's actually zip it. Yeah. 2 ears, one nose, and one mouth.
Actually, how long can we go on for?
We can go on for ages. We probably should stop.
That's great.
So
we'd love to hear more, wouldn't we?
Ask more questions, and we'll do more lives. Well, actually, no, we won't be able to do many. This might be our last live, but
we could Skype group in or something.
We could work something out. Anyway, keep your questions coming, and we'll keep responding. I keep looking down, and when I know that the camera's up there, it's got to get used to it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.